He should have kept walking. Most people did. 2:13 in the morning. Rain drifted sideways across an empty Arizona highway, thin and cold enough to settle into denim and memory. The neon diner sign flickered red against wet pavement like a tired heartbeat refusing to quit. Inside, old country music hummed low beneath the sound of silverware and coffee cups. Burnt bacon, fresh pie, steam curling toward tired fluorescent lights. The kind of place truckers found when life got too quiet. The kind of place lonely people stayed longer than they planned. Ethan Walker pushed open the glass door with one hand. 38 years old, white, former U.S. Marine, 6'2", broad shoulders worn down by years that never fully left him. Ranger moved beside him without a leash pulling tight. German Shepherd, dark sable coat, amber eyes that noticed things people missed. Ethan carried rain on his jacket and silence in his bones. Ranger carried something else, the kind of loyalty you cannot train, only earn. A few people glanced up when they entered, then looked away. That was normal. Ethan preferred it that way. Ranger settled near booth 7 automatically. Same position, same awareness, same quiet discipline that had followed Ethan through years he no longer talked about. A waitress passed with coffee. A truck driver laughed near the counter. A tired nurse rubbed her eyes over untouched fries. Ordinary. Safe. Until it wasn't. Glass hit the floor. Sharp. Sudden. Every sound in the diner seemed to disappear afterward. Ethan looked up. Near the register stood a boy, maybe 11 years old. Thin shoulders. Dark hoodie, too large for him. White apron hanging crooked. Chocolate milk spread across black tile, while pieces of broken glass caught neon reflections beneath fluorescent light. The boy didn't move, didn't speak, just stared down. Across from him stood a man in his early 30s wearing expensive boots and impatience like armor. Derek Cole, tall, clean haircut, perfect watch, smile without kindness. He leaned back against the counter while a woman near 60 hurried forward with a towel. Martha Doyle, owner, grandmother, the kind of face life carves carefully. Lines. Earn honestly. Hands that had probably poured coffee for strangers longer than Ethan had been alive. I'm sorry, Martha said softly. He'll clean it up. Derek laughed once. Not loud. Worse. Casual. Like someone practiced making people feel small. Guess he should learn faster. The boy bent down immediately. Ranger lifted his head. Ethan saw it instantly. Ears forward. Eyes fixed. Not danger. Something older than danger. Fear. Ethan felt his hand tighten around warm coffee without realizing it. The boy moved carefully, quietly, like somebody used to apologizing before speaking. Derek watched him struggle, then nudged the empty cup sitting near the edge of the counter. It tipped slowly, rolled once, hit tile, more liquid spreading across black floor. More silence. Clean it again, Derek said. Ranger stood up. Before we begin, tell me, we're witching from Drop Your Country in the comments. I'd love to see how far this story travels. Ranger stood slowly. Not tense, not aggressive, just awake in a way Ethan understood too well. The German Shepherd moved one step forward beside the booth and stopped. Amber eyes fixed on the boy near the counter. Ethan felt something tighten deep beneath old places he usually kept locked away. Outside, rain tapped softly against the diner windows. Neon red light drifted across polished tile and empty pie displays. Somewhere behind the kitchen doors, a timer beeped. Normal sounds, safe sounds, but the air inside booth 7 felt different now. He had learned years ago that fear had a shape, a rhythm. Sometimes people carried it so quietly the world forgot to notice. Ranger never forgot. The boy knelt beside broken glass carefully. Too carefully. 11 years old maybe. Small hands moving fast. Fast enough to stay invisible. Ethan watched him reach for a paper towel dispenser without lifting his eyes once. No frustration. No complaint. Just routine. Like this had happened before. Martha hurried beside him carrying another towel. Noah, she said softly. Honey, leave the glass. I will do it. The boy shook his head once. No words. Just movement. Derek leaned back against the counter, scrolling through his phone now like none of it. mattered. Expensive watch, crisp jacket, clean boots without rain on them. Ethan had seen men like that before. Men who needed to feel taller by making someone else smaller. Ranger took another step. Quiet. Controlled. Noah finally looked up. Just for a second. Ethan saw it then. Pale blue eyes. Tired eyes. Too old for 11 years. Ranger lowered his head slightly. The same way he used to around frightened survivors years ago. Noah stared at him. Something shifted. Small. Almost invisible. But Ethan saw it. The boy smiled. Barely. Just enough to exist before disappearing again. Martha noticed too. Her shoulders softened. First smile all week, she whispered quietly to nobody. Ethan looked down at his coffee. Steam curled upward into fluorescent light. 5 years since leaving active duty. 3 states crossed in 6 months. Too many empty motel rooms. Too many nights sleeping less than 4 hours. Ranger had been there for all of it. Ranger never asked questions. Never needed answers. The old memories still came sometimes. Desert wind. Static through radios. Empty silence after noise disappeared. Ethan learned long ago that healing did not happen all at once. It happened quietly, piece by piece, like learning how to breathe differently after forgetting you were holding your breath. Noah carried that same look. Ethan knew it immediately. Not sadness. Something heavier. The kind children should never have to carry alone. Derek finally looked up from his phone. Saw Noah standing near Ranger now. Saw the dog watching calmly beside him. Saw something he did not understand. Real nice, Derek said with a dry laugh. Kid talks to dogs better than people. Noah froze instantly. Smile gone. Shoulders smaller again. Martha stepped forward quickly. Derek, enough. He shrugged. What? Just making conversation. Ethan felt Ranger shift beside him. One ear tilted forward. Small movement. Important movement. Noah stepped backward toward the kitchen entrance. Fast. Too fast. Like escape had become habit. Ranger watched him disappear behind swinging doors. Then slowly turned back toward Ethan. Those amber eyes said what words never could. Something is wrong. Ethan reached down carefully and rested one hand against Ranger's neck. Warm fur. Steady heartbeat. Familiar ground beneath uncertain things. Then the kitchen door cracked open again. Noah stepped back out carrying fresh coffee. His sleeve pulled back just enough to reveal something wrapped around his wrist. Thin black cord. Worn military tag hanging beneath it. Ethan froze. Ranger stood up again. Ethan stared at the military tag hanging from the black cord around Noah's wrist. Not official issue anymore. Old. Scratched. Worn smooth by years of fingers holding on to something that mattered. The kind of thing people carried when letting go felt impossible. Rain rolled down the diner windows in crooked silver lines. Headlights drifted past outside on the highway. A truck engine growled somewhere beyond the parking lot before disappearing into darkness. Inside, coffee kept brewing. Plates kept moving. Life kept pretending it had not changed. Ethan knew better. Ranger sat beside him again, but did not relax. His ears stayed forward. Focused. Patient. Waiting. The same way he used to wait before storms nobody else noticed coming. Noah moved quietly between tables carrying fresh refills. No motion. No implants. No eye contact. The military tag slipped beneath his sleeve again. Hidden. But Ethan had already seen enough. Martha returned carrying pie for booth 4. She looked tired now. More tired than 20 minutes ago. Derek remained near the counter scrolling through his phone while tapping one expensive boot against tile. Top, top, top. Sharp little sounds cutting through country music and silverware. Ethan took another sip of coffee gone lukewarm. Ranger lifted his nose slightly toward the kitchen, then toward Noah, then back toward Ethan. Something important. Ethan knew the pattern. Ranger did not point people toward problems. He pointed people toward pain. There was a difference. Noah approached booth 7 slowly. Fresh coffee pot in hand. Hand steady. Eyes lowered. Refill, he asked quietly. First words Ethan had heard from him all night. Small voice. Careful voice. Like using it too much might cost something. Ethan nodded once. Thank you. Noah poured coffee. Carefully. Steam curled upward between them. Cinnamon from pie cooling near the register drifted softly through warm diner air. Ranger remained perfectly still. Noah glanced down toward him. "He is beautiful," Noah said quietly. Ethan almost smiled. "He knows." Noah nodded slightly. Small silence settled between them. Not uncomfortable, just quiet. Familiar quiet. Ethan noticed it then. Noah wore no watch. No bracelet. Only the military tag. One thing held close. One thing carried everywhere. "Family?" Ethan asked gently. Noah froze. Coffee pot paused halfway toward the table edge. "Too long. Just long enough." "My dad," Noah said softly. 3 words. Heavy words. Then he stepped away immediately. Fast again. Back toward safety. Back toward distance. Ethan leaned back slowly. Ranger rested his chin near Ethan's knee. Warm weight. Grounding weight. 5 years out of service, and sometimes old instincts still arrive before thinking did. Watch exits. Watch people. Watch silence. Especially silence. Martha moved beside Noah near the register now. Ethan saw her hand rest briefly against the boy's shoulder. Noah leaned into it slightly. Only for a second. Then straightened. Derek looked up from his phone again. Watched them. Smirked faintly. Ethan felt something old stir quietly beneath years of learning not to interfere. Not anger. Something deeper. Recognition. He remembered being 12. Smaller than everyone else. New school. New town. Learning fast that some people could smell loneliness. Ranger stood without warning. Slow. Controlled. Calm. Then walked toward the wall near booth 3. Toward framed photographs hanging beside an old American flag faded by sunlight and years. Ethan followed him with his eyes. Ranger stopped beneath one picture. Noah's picture. Younger. Smiling. Standing beside a man in desert camouflage. United States Marine Corps uniform. Ethan felt cold move slowly through warm diner air. Then Derek stood up and walked toward Noah. Rain kept sliding down the diner windows in slow silver trails while headlights drifted past outside like ghosts too tired to stop. The clock above the pie cooler read 2:28 in the morning. Country music still played low near the kitchen. Coffee still steamed. Plates still moved. But something inside the room had changed. Ethan felt it the same way he used to feel weather shifting before desert storms rolled across open ground. Quiet first. Then pressure, then something breaking loose. Derek walked toward the register with slow, easy confidence. The kind that came from believing nobody would push back. Noah stood near the coffee station, organizing creamers into perfect rows. One crooked packet. Noah fixed it. One sugar packet turned sideways. Noah fixed that too. Small things. Control things. Ethan recognized that kind of focus. Ranger watched without blinking. Martha stepped forward, wiping her hands on a faded blue towel. Tired eyes. Kind face. Stronger than she looked. Derek leaned against the counter. Too close now. Too comfortable. Martha kept her voice calm, asking if he needed anything else before closing. Derek smiled without warmth. Said his fries had been cold. Said his pie tasted stale. Said service around here kept getting worse every month. Noah lowered his eyes immediately. Martha apologized softly. Ethan watched Noah straighten 3 napkin holders that did not need fixing. Ranger remained still beside booth 7. Stillness mattered with dogs. People thought loyalty barked loud. Sometimes loyalty simply paid attention longer than everyone else. Derek pulled a receipt from his pocket and set it on the counter harder than necessary. Martha picked it up, looked confused, looked again. Ethan saw it from halfway across the diner. The receipt was old, folded too many times. Weeks old maybe. Derek wanted a refund. Martha explained gently. Voice careful. Professional. The receipt was from nearly 2 months ago. Derek shrugged. Said maybe she should treat customers better then. Noah stepped forward quietly. Too quietly. Said they had been closed that date because of heavy storms. Martha turned toward him fast. Small warning in her eyes. Noah immediately stopped talking. Derek looked at him slowly. Smile fading. Ethan felt Ranger shift beside him. Barely an inch. Enough. Derek leaned closer toward Noah. Not loud. Somehow worse. Calm voices could leave. Deeper marks than shouting sometimes. Noah grew smaller again, shoulders folding inward, eyes toward the floor. Ethan hated that part most. Watching someone disappear while standing right in front of you. Rain tapped harder against glass. Wind moved across the parking lot outside, carrying cold through tiny spaces near the diner entrance. Martha apologized again, offered fresh coffee, offered pie, offered kindness where kindness had already been stretched thin. Derek accepted none of it. Ethan looked toward the photograph Ranger had stopped beneath earlier. Marine uniform, desert backdrop, Noah smiling beside his father. Pride lived in that picture. Love lived there too. Ethan knew because he had seen families hold on to photographs when life took everything else. Ranger stood slowly, not toward Derek, toward Noah. Calm, steady. Noah glanced down, one hand lowered without thinking, fingers touching warm fur beside him. Breathing changed. Slower now. Safer. Derek noticed. Ethan saw it happen. Saw something cold move behind Derek's eyes. Saw him glance toward the military tag slipping free beneath Noah's sleeve again. Then Derek said 4 words that made the entire diner feel colder. Tell me about him. The diner grew quieter than before. Not silent. Worse. The kind of quiet where people kept eating but stopped tasting food. The kind where forks moved slower and coffee cooled untouched beside tired hands. Rain drifted harder outside now. Wind rolled across the highway, carrying cold through the edges of the old building. The neon sign buzzed softly above the window. Red light, blue shadows, warm coffee, heavy air. Noah stood frozen beside the register, one hand near Ranger's collar, the other holding the edge of his apron tightly enough to wrinkle fabric. Derek waited, calm, patient, like he already knew silence made people uncomfortable. Martha stepped closer immediately. Noah has work to finish, she said gently. Derek nodded once. Smile still there. I just asked about his father. Noah lowered his eyes. Ethan watched the boy carefully. Watched shoulders tighten. Breathing shorten. Ranger felt it too. The German shepherd shifted closer until warm sable fur brushed lightly against Noah's leg, grounding him, holding him there without asking questions. Ethan knew that move. Ranger had done it for him too. Airports, crowded stores, bad nights, long years after service ended when old memories still found their own way home. Noah swallowed once, looked toward the photograph hanging near the flag. Desert camouflage, bright smile, marine pride, family pride. My dad served, Noah said quietly. Small voice, thin voice, but steady this time. Derek leaned lightly against the counter. Served where? Noah hesitated. Afghanistan. Martha closed her eyes briefly, just long enough for Ethan to notice. Derek nodded slowly. Military family. Noah said nothing. Rain tapped harder against glass now. Ranger never moved. Derek folded his arms. That tag belonged to him. Noah touched the black cord around his wrist instinctively, fingers resting against worn metal hidden beneath his sleeve. Yes. One word. Careful word. Precious word. Derek looked toward the picture again. You come back home? Martha stepped forward instantly. Enough. Quiet voice. Firm voice. Noah lowered his head immediately. Too quickly. Too practiced. Ethan felt something twist quietly inside him. Not anger. Recognition. Ranger lifted his head toward Ethan for half a second, then back toward Noah. Derek shrugged lightly. People ask questions. Kids should learn that. Nobody answered. Not the truck driver near booth 4. Not the nurse near the window. Not Martha. Not Noah. Ethan stared down into coffee gone cold hours ago. He remembered another boy once. Smaller than classmates. New school. Missing father. Questions people asked because they wanted stories instead of truth. Ranger moved first. Slow. Controlled. Gentle. The German shepherd walked directly toward the photograph wall again. Sat beneath the marine picture. Looked up. Noah looked too. Martha did too. Ethan stood slowly from booth 7. Chair, sliding softly against tile. Ranger stayed beneath the photograph. Perfectly still. Like he understood something nobody else did yet. Ethan walked toward the wall. Toward faded wood frame edges. Toward desert backdrop frozen years earlier. Noah's father smiled from inside that picture. White Marine uniform, shirt beneath sunburned desert light. Ethan stopped moving completely. Something inside him dropped hard and quiet all at once. He knew that face. Ethan did not move. Rain rolled quietly down the glass behind him while neon light shimmered across the old frame hanging on the diner wall. Desert sun, sand color mountains, marine uniform. One hand resting on a younger German shepherd wearing a training harness. The photograph looked years old. Maybe 10, maybe more. But Ethan knew that face immediately. Time changes people. It does not erase them, especially not the ones who carried hard days beside you. Ranger stayed seated beneath the picture without making a sound. Noah looked from Ethan to the photograph, then back again. Martha noticed it too. Her hand tightened slowly around the towel, folded near the register. Derek shifted beside the counter, waiting, watching, looking bored now, like the moment had stopped entertaining him. Ethan stepped closer to the wall, closer to memory, closer to something he had not expected to find at 2:30 in the morning inside a roadside diner off Highway 60. His name was Daniel Doyle, Ethan said quietly. Nobody moved. Nobody even picked up a coffee cup. Noah stared at him, pale blue eyes suddenly wider than before. Martha slowly lowered the towel. You knew him? She asked softly. Ethan nodded once. Small movement. Heavy truth. We served together. The room changed. Not loudly. Quietly. The way weather changes before sunrise. Noah stepped forward. Just one step. Ranger finally stood again. Slow. Calm. Present. Ethan kept looking at the photograph. Daniel Doyle. White Marine. Good man. Kvietman. The kind that noticed when someone else was struggling before they ever asked for help. Ethan remembered desert wind hitting tents hard enough to shake sleep away. Early mornings before sunrise. Sand in side boots. Coffee that tasted terrible but somehow fixed everything anyway. Daniel laughing once after Ranger stole half a breakfast sandwich right off a supply crate. Ethan had not thought about that memory in years. He saved my life once, Ethan said softly. Noah blinked hard. Martha covered her mouth. Derek shifted uncomfortably near the counter now, suddenly less interested in listening. There was a bad dust storm near Helmand Province. Ethan continued quietly. Visibility almost gone. We got separated. Daniel found me. Noah stared without moving. Ranger walked slowly toward Ethan and rested beside him. Warm, familiar, ground beneath memory. Martha stepped closer now, eyes wet but steady. Daniel never talked much about overseas, she whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. Good Marines usually do not. Noah reached toward the military tag around his wrist, fingers resting against worn metal hidden beneath fabric. Grandma says he wore it every day. Ethan looked down toward him. Really looked this time. Same eyes. Same quiet strength. Same way of carrying pain without asking anyone to help hold it. Your father was one of the best men I ever knew, Ethan said. Noah lowered his eyes immediately. Too quickly. Like compliments felt dangerous somehow. Ranger moved beside him without command. Warm shoulder touching Noah lightly. Noah did not step away this time. Derek grabbed his jacket near the counter. Nice story, he muttered quietly. Ethan turned slowly toward him. Calm. Steady. Years of discipline wrapped inside simple stillness. Derek looked away first. Rain tapped harder against the windows. Wind rolled across empty highway darkness outside. Then Martha whispered something that made Ethan forget the rain completely. Noah stopped talking after Daniel passed away. Tonight is the most he has spoken in months. The diner felt warmer somehow after Martha spoke those words, but Ethan could not explain why. Maybe because truth changes a room. Maybe because pain spoken out loud stops hiding in corners. Rain still tapped softly against the windows. Neon light still painted tired red lines across tile floor. Coffee still steamed beneath hanging lights older than Noah himself. But something had shifted. Something quiet. Something alive. Noah stood beside Ranger without realizing one hand still rested gently against warm sable fur. The German shepherd stayed perfectly still. Not trained still. Trusted still. Ethan knew the difference. Martha wiped beneath her eyes quickly and tried to smile. He used to talk all the time, she said softly. Would not stop talking some days. Noah looked down immediately. Ethan noticed it again. The instinct to disappear. The habit of becoming smaller when attention arrived. Ranger leaned lightly against Noah's leg, grounding him again, holding the weight without asking him to carry it alone. Ethan remembered Daniel once saying something during deployment years ago. Long night, bad weather, cold coffee. Daniel had looked out toward darkness beyond camp lights and quietly said people survive hard things better when somebody stays. Ethan never forgot it. Somehow, standing here now, he understood why. Derek adjusted his jacket near the door. Quiet now. Restless now. The confidence from earlier gone dull around the edges. People noticed things differently once Truth entered her room. The truck driver near booth 4 finally stood. Walked toward the register. Left $40 beneath the coffee machine. For breakfast tomorrow, he said quietly toward Martha. Then walked back. The nurse near the window folded her receipt and tucked another 20 beside it. Pie fund, she whispered. Nobody made a speech. Nobody made a scene. Kindness rarely arrives loudly. Noah stared at the small pile, slowly forming near the register. Confused, uncertain, like he had forgotten people could choose good things freely. Ethan reached into his wallet quietly, folded bills beside the others. Martha shook her head immediately. No. Ethan nodded once. Yes. Simple. Final. Noah looked toward Ethan carefully now. Really looked. You knew him a long time? He asked quietly. Ethan leaned back against the counter near Ranger. Thought for a second. Thought about desert wind. Supply trucks. Long roads beneath foreign stars. Thought about Daniel laughing after Ranger stole breakfast years ago. Thought about promises good men leave behind without realizing it. Long enough, Ethan said softly. Noah nodded slowly. Pale blue eyes glassy beneath fluorescent light. Grandma says people forget after funerals. Quiet words. Honest words. The kind children say when nobody teaches them how to hide pain yet. Ethan felt something heavy settle quietly inside him. Ranger moved first. Of course he did. The German shepherd stepped directly toward Noah. Sat down beside him. Looked up patiently. Noah hesitated, then lowered himself slowly onto one knee beside him. Warm fur beneath shaking fingers. Safe silence. Steady breathing. Ranger rested his head gently against Noah's chest. The room disappeared for a second. Rain disappeared. Neon disappeared. Highway noise disappeared. Noah closed his eyes tightly. One breath, then another. Small shoulders trembling once before becoming still again. When he finally opened his eyes, he looked toward Ethan. Really looked this time. Good dog, Noah whispered. Ranger thumped his tail once against old diner tile. Ethan smiled quietly. First time all night. Then Noah said something nobody inside that diner would ever forget. He feels like home. The rain finally softened around 3:10 in the morning. Not gone, just quieter now. The kind of rain that sounded less like weather and more like memory brushing softly against old windows. Inside the diner, the lights still glowed warm against chrome edges and faded booths worn smooth by years of strangers carrying heavy things through hard seasons. The truck driver left first. Hut lowered. Coffee finished. One quiet nod toward Noah before disappearing into the dark parking lot. The nurse followed after that. Then another customer. Then another. Small goodbyes. Small kindnesses. Nothing dramatic. Real life rarely moved dramatically. Martha stood behind the register, slowly counting receipts with tired hands. The small pile of folded bills people left earlier still rested beside the coffee machine, untouched. She had tried twice to move it. Twice she stopped. Noah sat near booth 7 now. Ranger stretched across the floor beside him. One hand resting against warm fur without thinking, like he had been doing it for years instead of 30 minutes. Ethan watched quietly from across the room. Coffee cold again. Thoughts louder than before. Ranger opened one. I toward him briefly. Calm. Settled. Mission complete for now. Ethan almost smiled. Noah looked toward the photograph wall again. Toward Daniel. Desert uniform. Sunlight frozen inside old glass. Grandma says he loves storms, Noah said softly after a while. Ethan leaned back slowly. Your father? Noah nodded. He said storms remind people they are small, but not alone. Ethan stared toward rain, sliding down neon windows. Daniel said that once overseas, too. Different storm, different country. Same words. Strange how some voices survive time. Martha carried over fresh pie nobody asked for. Apple cinnamon. Warm enough to steam gently beneath hanging lights. How special, she said softly. Noah rolled his eyes slightly. Grandma. Martha smiled. First real smile all night. Eat. Ranger lifted his head immediately. Noah laughed quietly. Actual laughter. Small. Rusty. Unpracticed. But real. Ethan felt a hit somewhere deeper than expected. Funny how healing arrived sometimes. Not through speeches. Not through answers. Through pie. Through dogs. Through staying longer than planned. Ethan glanced toward his watch. 3:26. He should leave. Arizona highway still stretched ahead. Another motel somewhere. Another morning alone somewhere else. Same road. Same pattern. Ranger stood slowly. Walked toward the door. Then stopped. Did not move farther. Ethan waited. Ranger stayed where he was. Martha noticed first. Looks like he disagrees. Ethan exhaled quietly. He usually does when he thinks I'm making bad decisions. Noah smiled again. Smaller this time. Stronger too. Ethan reached for his jacket finally. Rain jacket still damp near the shoulders. Ranger still waiting by the door. But not facing outside. Facing Ethan. Martha folded a small white box closed near the counter. Extra pie. Take this, she said quietly. Ethan shook his head immediately. No, ma'am. Martha slid it toward him anyway. Daniel used to argue too. Silence settled gently after that. Familiar silence now. Safe silence. Noah walked toward Ethan slowly. Military tag resting against his wrist beneath diner light. Pale blue eyes steadier than before. You coming back? He asked quietly. Ethan opened his mouth. Stopped. Ranger sat down beside Noah instead of near the door. Ethan looked at the dog. Then the boy. Then the old marine photograph hanging quietly beneath worn American colors. Outside the storm kept moving east. But inside something had finally stopped running. 6 weeks later the storm was gone. Not only the one that rolled across Arizona highways that night. Other storms too. The quieter ones. The heavier ones people carried where nobody could see. Morning sunlight spilled through the diner windows now instead of neon reflections and rain. Pickup trucks filled the parking lot. A delivery van sat near the side entrance. Coffee moved faster. Plates moved faster. Life moved differently here now. The old diner still smelled like cinnamon pie and fresh bacon and coffee brewed too strong. The booth still creaked. The country music still played low beneath conversation and silverware. Some things stayed the same because they were supposed to. Other things changed because they had to. Ethan Walker stepped through the front door just after 8:15 in the morning carrying dust from Highway 60 across worn boots. Ranger walked beside him without needing direction. The German shepherd knew the way now. Martha looked up from behind the register and smiled immediately. Real smile. Bright smile. You were late, she called out. Ethan glanced toward the clock. 3 minutes. Still late. Ranger moved past both of them like he owned the place. Noah stood near booth 7 wiping tables. Taller somehow. Stronger somehow. Not because 6 weeks changes a person. Because hope does. You missed breakfast rush, Noah said. Ethan stopped walking. Looked toward him carefully. Clear voice. Strong voice. No hosetashchen. Noah noticed immediately. Small smile. Different smile now. Ranger walked directly toward him and rested beside his leg automatically. Habit now. Family habit. Ethan sat near the window while sunlight stretched across polished table edges. A white envelope rested beside his coffee mug. Handwritten. Simple. Noah slid into the seat across from him awkwardly. Grandma said I should give it to you today. Ethan looked at the envelope quietly. Old instinct. Heavy things sometimes arrived inside paper. He opened it slowly. One folded page. Blue ink. Careful handwriting. Not Perfect. Honest. Ethan read silently. Thank you for remembering him. Thank you for staying. Grandma says people leave when hard things happen. You did not. Ranger still feels like home. I think maybe home is not a place. Maybe it is who stays. Ethan read the last line twice. Then once more. Outside sunlight flashed briefly across parked trucks. Wind moved softly through old highway trees beyond the diner windows. Ranger rested beneath the table. Calm. Settled. Noah looked nervous suddenly. Also joined something. Ethan folded the letter carefully. What? Noah lifted something from his pocket. Small card. Youth volunteer program through the local veterans center. Martha stood quietly near the coffee machine, pretending not to watch. Ethan smiled slowly. Not polite smile. Not survival smile. Real smile. Daniel Doyle once said good things survive when somebody carries them forward. Ethan understood now. Ranger stood slowly and moved toward the photograph wall. Desert uniform. Old memories. Marine pride frozen inside sunlight and glass. Ethan walked toward it quietly. Noah beside him now. Martha too. 3 people. 1 dog. 1 photograph. 1 life, still changing lives years later. Ethan looked at Daniel's picture one last time before heading toward the door. You still looking out for people, he said softly. Outside, Arizona sunlight stretched wide across open highway miles waiting beyond town limits. Ranger stepped beside him. Noah stood near the window watching. Ethan reached for the truck door. Stopped. Looked back once. The diner stood warm against morning light. Small place. Ordinary place. But sometimes grace does not arrive in cathedrals. Sometimes it waits beside old coffee and tired people and somebody willing to stay longer than planned. Ranger jumped into the truck first. Of course he did. Ethan smiled quietly. Some lessons never leave you. Neither do the souls who teach them. On a stormy Arizona night, a former Marine and his loyal German shepherd step into a quiet roadside diner, expecting nothing more than coffee and shelter from the rain. What they find instead is a grieving boy, an exhausted grandmother, and a moment of quiet injustice that changes everything. As old memories from military service collide with loss, loyalty, healing, and unexpected kindness, the Marine discovers that some promises survive time and some bonds never truly leave us. Through courage, compassion, and the silent wisdom of a faithful dog, this emotional journey delivers the heart and soul that fans of animal stories search for. Filled with cinematic emotion, loyalty, redemption, and unforgettable human connection. This is one of those animal stories where healing arrives quietly and hope returns when people choose to stay. If you love animal stories about loyalty, second chances, and powerful bonds between people and dogs, this unforgettable story belongs with the very best animal stories ever told.